Hello everybody, and currently we're here with a news report. You should have seen the battle report from Finnmark before watching this, but if you haven't, please go back and watch that to understand where the basis of this news report is coming from. So, currently, the Swedes have retreated out of Finnmark with taking 52 medium tank casualties and 30 light tank casualties and losing 6 APCs. Alright, so in my math right now, that means they just lost around 300 soldiers, 300 innocent men. That that's something that all nations should mourn about. But now we'll be heading over to Finlandia to interview the leader after their victory in Finnmark. But currently standing, it looks like they might make a counterattack and mark it or try again for Finnmark. But we do not know yet, so we cannot disclose any information. So, yeah. Both sides have started to take casualties, and this war is becoming very interesting. With the Finnish losing 3 tank destroyers and losing around between 12 to 15 men, it's still not looking good. This war is looking good for the Finns, but not so great for the Swedes. We'll see which side can pull it back out and maybe come back and win. So, we will be taking ourselves over to Finlandia right now, and we'll be cutting over to our crew. Hello everybody, and we're currently cutting over into Sweden to understand what is happening here before we visit into and we're currently here at one of their naval ports for a quick refueling to keep on traveling. And they seem to have a small PT boat arsenal, and then one of our Scottish destroyers are stationed here, and currently probably under use by the Swedes. And here's the King currently standing in front of us. So, I'm King Frosty. Is he mute right now? Is he just...
I do not understand what you asked.
Alright, well, they have a nice
Could
submarine.
you repeat that?
So,
Could you repeat what you said?
King Frosty, so you're aware of the mass Scottish casualties you've caused, correct?
Yes, I'm aware of the forces Scotland has brought up and Scotland has given to me in this time of war and has let me use. I'm aware of how much casualties we have lost, and I am hoping to double or triple the amount of casualties we got, but instead for Finland.
Alright,
If we
well,
lost 100, they're gonna lose 300.
well, so, King Frosty, so, there was 208 dead Scotsmen, alright, and 52 dead tankers. Can you explain the reason why there were this many dead?
You see, we were going to do a rush attack, and they emerged from their trenches and some trench guns and others like that. And as we rushed, they surprised us. They brought in tank destroyers, heavy tanks, super heavy tanks, anything they could to destroy our tanks. And by the time we moved up artillery to make a final move, they were out of our range. We couldn't do anything about it. We had to fall back.
Alright, so, but still, the king sent you these units for end goal of a different war, and you sat there and reassured him that casualties would be minimal.
Well, in this stance, and what we could potentially be gaining from Finland and from one of the other wars, I believe that it's a price to pay to be able to succeed. You need to sacrifice things for your country's greater good.
So you're
And
telling
as for
me
me and
sacrifice?
Scotland,
So you're telling me sacrificing
let me
Scottish
finish, sir.
lives
Let me finish.
are
Let me
are
finish, sir.
beneficial?
Let me finish, sir.
Alright.
It was not only Scottish lives that were lost. Many of our own Swedes that were lost.
Yeah, but in total, if our math is correct here at Scottish Home Base, you guys only end up losing 150 men.
We see that's the sacrifice we're willing to take for our future goals. All those men were willing. They signed an oath to fight and die for their country. And
You
as
you
me
you
and
don't
the King of
understand.
Scotland, discussed, what were you gonna say, sir?
That's 208 Scottish casualties to 150 Swedes. Alright? Do you understand the difference there, right? That
I
for
do understand the
every
difference there,
one
and
Swede that died during that battle, 1.5 Scotsmen died. Right, the king,
I
and I'm pretty sure once the queens catch word of this, aren't going to be too particularly happy, and which could possibly lead into you having to not fight only Finlandia, but also war against the Scottish Empire. And you can understand how devastating that would be for you and your military.
yes, that would definitely be devastating. But me personally, if I was King of Scotland, I wouldn't send a large, not large for myself, but a sizable military force to a foreign nation and expect them to all survive. If I lost all of them, but it got my ally what they needed and it got what I needed, that's a sacrifice I'm willing to take
But
for me
here's
and my country and
but
my
he,
peoples.
here's the thing, right?
One life is a lot less important than 1,000.
But here's the thing, right? Every Scottish civilian is valued equally as much as the royalty and the military, right? And our military, right, protects everybody, including the royalty, right?
Yeah,
And
we tried our hard, sir. We
those were
tried our
Royal
hardest to
Guard
win the battle. And
soldiers. Those were Royal Guard soldiers. They were
like I
sent from the
said,
king's personal
they
detachment.
can't send all these forces over and expect them to survive, all
They
of them.
sent them for a different war.
And I talked to the king, and he agreed to let me use those forces to defend myself. Because if I was wiped out, we wouldn't be able to win that war.
Yes, but at the same time,
This interview's over. This
this
interview's
interview's
over.
over.
This interview's over.
Well, that was currently the current
Are you actually
Servage
gonna
Queen
invade me though?
King
Are you actually gonna invade
of the nation. Now we will be heading over to Finlandia, and hopefully the hospitality is different. We have currently reached Finlandia, and we're currently here at their main state. And here is their capital building and one of their airships and an airship under progress. So we shall be heading inside. And I can see that, oh, and it seems like the party has started for their victory in Finnmark. Well, that is quite a sight if I don't say so myself. So, we should be heading inside of the Capitol building with their infrastructure, and I guess we shall be trying to find our way to the upstairs. Diplomatic, alright. That seems like we come right up here, and we should find the current standing King Wilhelm. Hello?
Yes, right on schedule.
Yes,
Please,
yeah,
take a seat.
alright. So, we've come here to interview you after the battle and also inquire a few questions that the king has given to us personally. If we don't ask, we're probably going to get shot. So, so are you happy with the successes of today's battle in Finnmark?
Well, of course. It's a grand military victory. We've proven ourselves as a regional power, if anything. We've been able to secure the province of Finnmark, much to the province's joy, and we've given citizenship to all in the province.
Oh.
Things are going well. The war seems to be going fine, and I must say, seeing our troops advance relatively unhindered was a sight to watch, but At the same time, I cannot help but notice the mix of both Finnish Panzer IXs that we had built and sold to them before, Scottish Cromwells, and of course their own designs. And I am not oblivious to the fact that many of those Cromwells were in fact your soldiers.
And that actually takes us into the next question, actually. So, were you fully aware of the Cromwells being deployed under Scottish command? Most Scottish soldiers under Swedish command, or no?
Yes, I was. But I look at it like this. Your soldiers were there to do one thing, and one thing only. That was to kill mine. Had mine not opened on yours, what would have become of mine? What ruin would have been laid upon my troops? I don't necessarily blame Scotland for sending their volunteers, but the blood, though it may be partially on my hands, is partially elsewhere. I am not completely at fault for the death of your Scottish soldiers, and I apologize in any regard.
And can I deliver you a few documents that were handed to me by the Scottish King for what was supposed to be addressed and what was told to all Scottish soldiers?
Surely, surely.
I shall be reading you off them right now. So, it says right here that these were the last orders sent to those Scottish soldiers, alright? You shall be serving under the King of Sweden for the time being. If a regional conflict starts, do not be the ones to open fire first. Right? And if it comes down to it, right, and the Finnish contact, you and your soldiers accept the contact and come into their lines so we avoid casualties for a pointless conflict that isn't in our vendetta. That was one of the very last transmissions that were sent to Scottish soldiers before they were fully handed over to Swedish control.
Well, certainly the memo must not have been heard. And even if it was, perhaps they did not want to back down from a challenge. I know your soldiers very well. I won't say very well, but I know them pretty well. I hear your king boast about them. They're willing to die for the interests of their empire. And in that scenario, maybe it wasn't for the interests of their empire. Maybe it was only for the Swedish. But even then, it didn't pave any way for victory for the Swedes.
We have a breaking there's currently a development with Russian news breaking out saying they will be joining the war against Sweden.
Yeah.
Yes, it's currently broken out in the news worldwide.
I'll be right back, if you would. There's refreshments on the table. I need to run something.
Alright. So, we shall be discussing of what we just heard. We shall just quickly set up our camera over right here.
Is that true? Really?
So, currently what the Finns have told us is what we've been expecting to hear from them. And yes, we do accept part of this as our fault, but at the same time, orders were given, and also we were guaranteed by the Swedes that we would not be damaged because of their war. Their regional conflict over a small pieces of land that grant Atlantic access or provide more minerals to a nation. So, we shall just be saying that for now. Coming back up, stealing back our camera. Alright. And we shall be waiting for King Metterheim to come back. So, while we wait, I guess we shall be addressing some issues currently standing. And it seems like King Metterheim has sent out a phone call to the press and to not support the Russian joining of the war. Well, this has turned into a solo news report. So, this is quite interesting. Developments have happened.
Yes, I want the Kremlin on the line. What do you mean all the lines are busy? I want the Kremlin on the line now.
Yeah. So, oh, and
Much apologies.
it's quite fun. So, so where should we start? So currently we're still sitting here getting live call-ins from Scottish news sources and also Yugoslavian and Israeli news sources that are all getting sent into Scotland, saying that the Russians refuse to lay off on their current standing aggressions. So, what's your input on this, King Metterheim?
Well, at least the Russians have decided not to get in our affairs. And that is good, because I do not want this to escalate further.
Into a world war.
Of course, no.
Yeah.
This is simply a regional war, a very minor one at that. I don't want this to erupt into something larger. It was never the intention of me nor my advisors or my commanders.
But since you've been delivered some news that you weren't aware of, but also aware of, and now you're aware of how the Scottish are supposed to be, how they are supposed to handle allies that are possibly caught up in regional conflicts. You can now understand. So, in case if Scottish soldiers are stationed there, you can reach out to them and they will withdraw or come into your lines and head back home. If it comes down to it, if it comes down to us opening fire upon you and or Scottish deaths over something stupid.
Right.
Yes. So, the real question is right now is how is this going to happen? How is this going to go down? Right? Because to our information that the king has yet to inform any of his queens. And the queens do hold a major power in the empire. You want to know what that is?
Influence, nobility.
They can help decide whether a war is justified or not. Right? So, how are you going to interact with this information being dispensed to you? That's a real question. How will you learn from what you've learned?
Well, I don't know. It's like I've said. It was mine or them. I simply
Was not aware of
wanted
the
to
information.
defend my men. And
And
I was not aware that they weren't meant to, I guess, attack, but they were on their way to.
But did you forget about the Scoto-Finnish alliance that has been standing for
Well,
quite a long time?
Scoto-Finnish alliance, you say?
Yes, we've had this established for quite some time.
I don't remember being briefed on this.
Were you not?
No, I was never informed we had an alliance.
Quite disappointing. Because it was publicly announced not too long ago.
I don't recall that, because I never agreed to that.
Alright. Well, this seems like all the information that we need. And we shall possibly see you later. And possibly a rebel
Surely.
Finland or a still completely standing Finland. We are unsure of how the king will react to certain situations. So we cannot guarantee full safety for your nation, but...
And I assure you, me and my people, we'll be fine here in Finland. And if there's one thing I want your king to understand, I did not want your men to die. I did not intend for them to die. But I'm not allowed to let my men die on the field either. If it comes down to it, Finnmark, being now in Finnish hands, is re-established as rightful Finnish clay.
Alright.
They have citizenship, and the blood spilled to secure it on both sides is regrettable.
Alright.
And that doesn't only go to your king, it goes to the Swedish king and whoever else may have participated in the battle. I don't want ill will to come from this battle, nor this war. This is a war to secure Finnmark and Marquette. Marquette will be next. If there's one thing I will tell you and your king, you are wise to pull your soldiers out. Not because they could not have fought well, but because they may have died like they did now. And I don't want that. I don't want foreign powers to come in, to get involved, because I knew things like this would happen. That's why I warned against it in the first place. That's why I don't want foreign powers coming in. Causes tension, causes grief. It causes discontent. There are plenty of families of those lost soldiers who now probably hate the Finnish as a result. And it is the faults of all three of our governments. Mine for pulling the trigger, Sweden's for putting them there, and, well, I guess you can figure out your part.
Just general involvement.
General involvement, maybe. Could be any number of things. It is whatever you want to make it out to be. I won't choose what it is, and you can blame me if you want. But if you do, well, nothing I can do to stop you, but you're not entirely right to put it on one person.
I believe
And
our
that's
king
all
understands
I've-
this, but we're not
That's
completely
all
sure.
I've got.
And
That's all I've got on the
we have one
subject.
final question. So the Nordic Union that existed before the war broke out, does it still exist and will it cause a ceasefire, or will the fighting still continue? So basically creating a two-front war if another nation joins.
you are going to attack Sweden, aren't you? With that question.
We cannot disclose that information. It's just something our king wanted us to address.
You know, they always say that when it's information they don't want to say yes to. So I know the answer, but I will tell you this. Just as I didn't want foreign intervention today, I don't want foreign intervention tomorrow. Getting your hands in the region, it likely won't de-escalate anything. It will only do the opposite.
And us in
Those
Scottish...
volunteers, if there's anything you can learn from those volunteers that died, and from my men that died, and from the Swedish men that died, the toll that foreign involvement can take is much larger than some will ever know. And from that, perhaps those soldiers would not want more of their men going in to die. Because I'm sure your king knows, and if you're well versed in politics, Mr. Journalist, you may know. If you do declare on Sweden, it's likely going to blow up into something far larger.
Yes,
And that's just the truth of the matter. I want you to understand that, and I want your king to understand that, and I want all the foreign powers to understand that. I don't want foreign powers in Scandinavia. I'm a firm believer that Scandinavians should rule Scandinavians. But I'm also a firm believer that Scandinavians should be ruled by a powerful government. And yes, your government is powerful, but they are Scottish, and I would much rather the Scottish stay out of Scandinavia.
Alright.
That's all I've got to say on that matter.
And with that, this is all we have time for here before our ship leaves in 15 minutes. Jesus Christ, we have to go run to the dock. Alright, well, it was a nice day interviewing you, and we will see you on a later date.
Shall I walk you out?
Yeah, I guess.
Alright.
So, may we also inquire one final thing while we're walking out?
Sure, of course.
Is this building still under development?
Very much, yes. Our town is quite a bit under development. As you may see, some roads are not yet paved. Helsinki is under a bit of a development project, as it were, but
the war has
because
kind
of
of postponed.
Of course, yes. Because of recent things, well, like the giant airship you see above us, and the one currently being built to the right, you can see it's
quite a
been
large
a big focus
ambition
of ours. Yes, it's been a large focus of ours to display our military might, as well as it has been an ambition of ours to have a military to back that up, which I believe today we've proved we do, more or less. Either that or competent commanders, or both. Who knows? But I will bargain for both. Anyway, I need to have a little talk with a couple of powers tonight. Anyhow, a chat or two will keep the politics flowing.
Alright, well, we gotta go run
Au
to
revoir.
our dock. Alright, well, goodbye. And hopefully we get to come back here once this place is finally finished.